Welcome, guys. Episode 5 of Golden Domer Boys podcast. I'm your host, Nolan. This is my co-host, Kyle. Today on the agenda, we've got a bunch of stuff to go over. Will Shipley decides. We're talking about Book. We're talking about our expectations for the offense. So this is going to be a good show. So, let's see how it goes. I'm excited to just sit back and talk some football.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So by now, I think we've realized that Will Shipley has decided to sign with Clemson over Notre Dame. You know, Will Shipley, 5-star all-purpose back, 24th nationally. Right now, he's got back-to-back state titles. He had a crazy dominant junior season, 2,000 yards rushing, 30 touchdowns, plus an additional 580 yards receiving and 8 reception touchdowns. Dude won North Carolina's Player of the Year for Gatorade. So this one hurts a little bit. For me, I think we have a really good running backs group for this upcoming season, no doubt. And Tyree's going to be a lot of fun to watch for the next couple of years. But, you do want to see more talent get pumped in. It just increases the competition. And what do you think about losing Will Shipley there, Nolan?
Listen, man, we all know it's tough to see. I would dream about seeing him and Chris Tyree in the backfield together. Like that's just something that's the beginning of Will's recruiting process. I wanted that guy, but sometimes you can't help where a person lives. And I think that really took a big toll on him not coming to South Bend, is him living in North Carolina. He wants his parents to come see him. He's a big family guy. But I give tons of credit to the staff for how hard they worked this guy. All of them really wanted him, and you could tell. You had Blake Fisher going out there tweeting at him every day, putting him on his Snapchat story. You had Lance Taylor talking to him. They will FaceTime like once a week or twice a week, which is crazy. But it hurts. But we all got to remember we still got one of the fastest players in the country coming in at running back at Chris Tyree. So we're still fine at the running back position for now. I know it hurts, but we're going to be good, and running back talent is better than usual right now.
Yeah. And I think it's important to really highlight what you said about location, distance from home. You can't blame a kid for wanting to only be a few hours away from home. That's certainly going to make things tough if this becomes a trend, because we do get a lot of talent from everywhere. That's what kind of makes Notre Dame unique to other programs, not necessarily the Clemsons, Alabamas, and so forth, but Notre Dame does hold an edge because of their reach. They do square off. Will Shipley will be on the roster. We don't know if he'll be on the field, but in 2022, so Notre Dame will go down to Clemson. So, enough about Will Shipley. It's done. It's over. It's in the past. We did want to vent about it a little bit, kind of share our thoughts. But looking ahead, we're trying to roll out this mailbag, program or whatever you want to call it. So without further ado, let's get into it. We got two gentlemen with a couple good questions that we wanted to focus on, and after that, we'll talk a little bit recruiting, but this is the meat here. So Michael P or MJ Palk 21 on Twitter asked, what could have been with Shipley? So Nolan, why don't you give us our what could have been scenario with Shipley?
What could have been with Shipley, man? I always said Shipley's the piece that we need to win a national championship. And that might have been my heart talking a little too much and my brain not thinking as much, and realize, hey, it's just an 18-year-old kid. There's a lot more to take in to get a national championship. But, it would have been cool. That dude can do anything you want in a back. He is literally Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. And I'm saying all this, but I still want to throw in there, man. Chris Tyree and him are similar. Tyree's not the type of guy to run you over like Shipley can, but Tyree will get open in the field, and I mean you're not catching him. That's a plus. But you got to think it back to Will. It would have been crazy seeing them together.
Together,
you know. But we've got to adjust. We can't sit down after this. I don't want to see, the recruiting staff get bummed out because this is one of the best jobs they've ever done in recruiting a guy. And, I mean, we were that close to getting number one all-purpose back in the country. So, but
I agree, man. Yeah, for me, I mean, I think it's important to know. I mean, the Irish are a bit underrated when it comes to the running back position. So, let's dig deep in the vault here. Since 1954, Notre Dame has had 35 running backs drafted. I can't name all of them, so I'm not even going to try. But of those, 15 were drafted in rounds 1 through 3. Since the turn of the century, though, the Irish have only sent 4 running backs into the league via the NFL draft. Shipley being projected as a future first-round pick, hence his 5 stars. Nothing being guaranteed, of course, but you look at the teams that are on the top of the hill in college football, and they all have running backs that are either 5 stars or damn near it. And you mentioned it too. There's more than just, a 5-star running back that's going to change your program, take it from, on the doorstep to over the top. So, I think that's what could have been. I mean, he could have been probably the best Notre Dame running back since. Jerome Bettis was a whole different kind of player. He's an animal. So I wouldn't compare him to him whatsoever, but he would be, a modern day, NFL running back. Christian McCaffrey, maybe, but that's a pretty good name to live up to. And it's, to me, the logical choice, and I wrote an article about it today. I mean, the logical choice for me was, if you want to be, you're being compared to Christian McCaffrey. You want to be like Christian McCaffrey. You go to his coach, Lance Taylor, who's now the run game coordinator at Notre Dame. And that's where you start. But, like we said, the best for him, we don't want to see, I'll still be rooting for him, except for when he plays us, of course. And you do want to see him do well. But, yeah, to me, what could have been? Yeah, I think that's a great question. So Michael also asked about our thoughts on the offensive expectations. What do we want to see in terms of play calling, player usage, formations, etc.? I'll go first on this one. I mean, I think Tommy Rees is going to do his best to get everyone involved. It's his first year, but I think that might actually be to a fault. I think it's tough to say who's going to be the go-to guy for Ian Book without having these spring practices to kind of base it off. Usually we've had a couple by now for us to say, well, those 2 guys are clicking. We haven't had that. I follow many of these guys on social media, as do most of us. And I was actually surprised to see our graduate transfer, Ben Skowronek, out west training with Ian Book in his hometown. That made a pretty strong impression on me that QB1 should have some pretty good chemistry when the time comes. I think the play calling will certainly be dictated by personnel, but I would like to see a lot of Braden Lindsey. He's got to be a focal point. Jet sweeps, screens. I think having him at the top of the formation with Tommy Tremble and Ben Skowronek out there, I mean, these are big dudes. We could really line up anybody anywhere in this offense and then be a threat either on the outside, the inside. I mean, you could pretty much line any of our, interior guys. So I'm talking tight ends really, out on the perimeter, and you have to treat them like a wide receiver. You have to play them like a wide receiver. That's going to be a big deal. I think Tremble and Mayer together might be the best 1-2 combo we see at tight end this year. And I think the trick for me, in closing, is, we can't become predictable with the personnel packages. I think Tommy Rees is well aware of that, especially with this chip he's got on his shoulder to prove himself. But I think having a veteran QB is going to be a big difference over years past.
Yeah, I agree with you, man, on the Braden Lindsey part. That man can literally be used anywhere. Line him up in the backfield,
Yep.
run option with him. I don't care. Put him in the slot. Just get that man involved. That man needs to touch the ball and get in the open field and score touchdowns, which we saw he can do.
Yeah.
We saw it USC game.
Yeah.
USC game, he had a 60, 70-yard touchdown, something like that. I mean,
people got to realize USC is a fast team,
they always have been.
And he's from out west, Oregon, I believe. So for him to do that against, that's the competition he's used to anyway. We just haven't really played on that level yet until we got him. I mean, obviously we have Rocket in the history books for Notre Dame, but we're kind of seeing a prop player that hopefully blossoms into a Rocket, Tim Brown type player where it's like, wow, every time he touches the ball, everybody stops and watches. I think one of the things you said is you think they're going to come out and be very aggressive.
Yeah.
Where do you think that's coming from?
Well, I mean, Turnover Tommy doesn't get the nickname for no reason, So I expect more big plays, which, downfield type plays, more, I'm not going to say trick plays, but plays we've never ran before, And change, it's hard to do, and sometimes, I mean, I feel like we're going to see a Notre Dame football team and playbook we've never seen before, which I'm excited for that. More big plays equals more points, So there's also a chance for turnover. So there is downside to it.
Yeah.
I think we'll see our offense put up 35 to 38 points a game. That's what I think about it. Maybe even 40 to 45 points a game if Book can make his way to a top-tier quarterback.
Yeah, our next question came from at BD4, and it basically just asks us what are our expectations for Book. So,
all right, man. Ian Book is our number one quarterback, and he should be. I hated people talking about putting Phil in before he transferred because Book is a good quarterback. Chip Long doesn't always have the best play calling. I think we all know that if you're listening to this. But Book doesn't get the Trevor Lawrence hype. He can get the job done. We saw that Virginia Tech game.
Yeah.
That final minute drive he had, I mean, he just put himself together as a player and stepped up and got the job done, And after the loss to Georgia and Michigan, or you either go forward or you break. And him and the team went forward. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, so many times you see a loss like we suffered. Georgia was a game we definitely came up short, but we played our asses off. Michigan, they beat us up. So for us to respond the way that we did as a team, that was pretty. I feel like a lot of people could have stopped watching after that. They already had 2 losses. We knew the season wasn't going to end in New Year's Six bowl game, we'll say. So I think a lot of people could have just kind of wrote them off and said, you know what, God, maybe next year or something like that. But I don't think they did. I think they responded. They came out. They beat up on some teams that they should have beat up on, which we don't always see. And the Virginia Tech thing, I mean, you could tell that Book was certainly frustrated with the response from the fan base. We can be a pretty rough at times. But he came out there and he literally silenced the crowd. He put everybody on his back and he made the plays he needed to. You put in here too. I mean, he went for 34-6 last year. It's not bad, No,
that's fairly good,
Yeah.
It's solid numbers. I expect him to, this season, I mean, he could easily hit the 40 touchdown mark, And I really think, man, I mean, I think this is his year. He is a leader, whether book haters on Twitter want to believe it or not. The book haters and Brian Kelly haters are in the same boat. They're just negative people. Don't surround yourself with them. But if he can get up to 40 touchdowns, which is very possible, I mean, we could see him go in the first 3 rounds of the draft. That's what I think. I think he could be a very good NFL quarterback.
I think Ian Book will be fine. I think he has the experience now. He should know how to prepare for the big games and the the games that are trap games. He has the potential to leave Notre Dame as one of the winningest quarterbacks to ever play at Notre Dame. So let's try our best to enjoy watching history be written instead of trying to put him down all the time. But he's had a couple signature performances. We talked about Virginia Tech. But I think his best is yet to come. I don't think he's the next Joe Burrow. I'm not going to be that guy. But look for his accuracy to be his strongest asset in 2020, because that's sort of what made Joe Burrow who he was. He was just completing at an unbelievable clip. And that's something that Ian Book did very early on in his career, and then I think he got away from. So I think, we talked about chemistry with Skowronek. He had that with Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is not there anymore. Okay, so I would like to say that, my expectation for Ian, too, is just come in and be a leader. I think he was transitioning into that role last season, and I think it was pretty clear in the Louisville game. Louisville, a good team. Watch for them again this year. They completely turned their program around. That was nuts. But we came out and we missed throws, and that kind of went on for the first couple games. And I felt like, we just didn't look like we were in sync until it was too late. And then, we kind of just never were able to put it together to be that team. So I think Ian's got all that in the back of his mind. I think he's ready to take the step forward. All right, and our last question that we had was to rank the current running backs. Yeah, man. So the running backs room for the 2021 season, loaded with unproven talent, is how I'd put it. I think everybody last year, and I know you felt this way, expected Jafar Armstrong to emerge as the guy, but his injury in week 1 derailed that train and let Tony Jones Jr. just take over. I think Armstrong's less likely to be that bell cow back that Tony Jones Jr. was, mainly because of the depth that we have this year. We have a lot more mouths to feed, I feel like, now that guys are just a little older. So we have Jameer Smith, Sebo Flemister, both juniors this year. These guys are our power guys, our stretch run guys. But if you want to talk about speed, man, you know who I'm going with. We're going Tyree and Kyren Williams. So I anticipate this will leave Tyree and Williams to be used in maybe RPO situation or passing situations where we could really utilize their speed as a weapon. But I think the more complicated matter, and you said it earlier too, Braden Lenzy. I mean, that's another mouth to feed. I don't think he's going to line up in the backfield, but you're crazy if you don't think he's getting, a couple jet sweeps or, reverses thrown his way over some of these guys, just because, I'll just say Tommy Rees has a lot to think about, and as far as how he's going to use them, but so does really Lance Taylor being the running game coordinator. How are you going to feed all those guys?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think all of them will be used. I mean, that's hard to say, but I think I think Jameer Smith will be the third down back. He's big. Mm-hmm. He's big and strong. So I think he'll be the 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 back we get to. I think you're going to see more of Chris Tyree than Kyren Williams at the first of the year, and see how that goes. Jafar will be the number 1 back, the more of the back that can do a little bit of everything. again, he's more on the speed type of back and make you miss type of back. But Jameer is our Tony Jones Jr. this year. He's not going to start. He's going to get the hard-earned yards, which is what we need. I mean, he has a good role. So that's how I think it's going to happen this year. All right, so let's talk about is Braden Lindsey going to return punts?
I don't think he'll be back there. My only reason I'm basing that off of is we didn't really use him all that much as I felt we should have in last year's offense, and you can blame Chip Long for that. That's fine.
Get him out of here.
Realistically, it seemed to be a conditioning thing, is what Kelly hinted at. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I don't think we're going to wear him down on punt returns. If it's a concern to the rest of the offense. I think offense will be prioritized. I'm sure if he went back there, we really haven't seen him create as much as we talk about him. He just goes. I mean, he gets up and goes. I haven't seen him necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen the shiftiness that really warrants. I mean, if he could do that on punts and just get around the defense and the blocks, he's home free in the open field. But I feel like with punt returns, I mean, you do need to have a guy with some shiftiness. Maybe put one of the wide receivers back there, Lawrence Keys, probably. Hopefully, I would like to see them employ a punt return instead of go back there and fair catch it. If we're on that topic.
I agree. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I stand today. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who's back there this year replacing Fink. It's literally, I mean, I honestly have no clue. I was just thinking about it, and I asked you because I don't know. I mean, we've got multiple speed guys. If Tyree doesn't get any playing time this year, maybe throw him back there. I don't know. Just get somebody quick.
Larry Williams to get everybody involved and let these kids make a name for themselves.
Exactly, man.
So, with bad news comes good news. I know you saw the tweet by your friend Blake Fisher. The two other times Blake Fisher has done it, it's turned out to be a pretty good thing for us. So he tweeted, "Irish fan, I got something coming for y'all today. Stay tuned." Okay, so he tweets this. Stay tuned. I like that. So when I looked, shortly thereafter, it turned out, yes, we lost Shipley, but we did sign a 4-star cornerback, Philip Riley. I think this dude, I mean, cornerback seems to be a position that you really can't have too many of. So I'm really excited for him to come on board, and I know Coach Mickens was really excited as well. He's got that he's in a mood right now because they just locked down the guy they wanted. So we lose one, but we gain another. So I guess there's some silver lining there.
Exactly, man. Like you said, when you lose one, you gain one. So I'm happy to get this guy. I haven't got to watch much of him actually since he just committed a couple hours ago. So we'll get back with you and maybe talk with you guys some more about how he is as a player at that time.
We gotta get him on the podcast, man.
Exactly. We'll have to get him on here. So we'll put that in the works and be looking out for that. All righty, guys. Social media part of this. Follow us on Twitter at Golden Domer Pod. Type that in the search bar and you'll find us. We want to thank everybody, by the way. Got us to 120 followers-ish. So now I mean, 2 days ago we were at like 90 something. So I appreciate all the love you guys are giving us, and write us feedback on anything. I mean, if we put out a tweet like we did today to give us some things to talk about, we obviously will talk about them like you saw. So if you got a question, don't just feel free to ask. Obviously, our YouTube channel is this Golden Domer podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think.
And we still have these awesome T-shirts for sale. So get in touch with either Nolan or I. Contact us on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. We'll be happy to deliver. So thank you guys for watching, and go Irish.
Go Irish. Thank you guys.